Well, welcome everyone to the final of our 6 sessions on working on your business and what that really means for you. Welcome to co-director Tim McCarthy. Tim, ready for another big session?
Ready for another one, Michael. It's the last one, so it's a little bit sad, but looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's right, but that's fine. People can certainly log on and have a listen to what we've been talking about down the track. So look, let's get into it and have a look at our thought for the day. We're going to start off with these wise words. Your business is there to serve you, not the other way around. Can I please get you to do some work straight up front? And that is, say those words out to yourself right now. Say them out loud. Your business is there to serve you, not the other way around. Now, as we look at that thought for the day, we're hoping that these sessions are really making a profound difference the way you look at your business and the way that you approach growing your business. Actually, more appropriately, growing the people within your business. But when you put aside some time to work on your business from now on, we actually hope that you have a lot more focus and awareness as to what areas will have the greatest impact for you. Now, if these sessions have made a difference to the way you're thinking, please let us know. Actually, either email us or leave a message on that landing page that we mentioned at the end of each session. But similarly, if what we've covered over the past 6 weeks has had no impact, or you haven't obtained any inspiration from these sessions, we'd love to know that as well, please, because we welcome all feedback and we can always do things differently. And actually, here's an offer for you. If there's something in your business that you're not quite sure how to tackle, please let us know. And Tim and I promise we'll come back to you with how we would go about tackling that issue. That's our gift to you for taking the time out of your day to listen to our thoughts and ideas on working on your business. But before we move on to the agenda and the session, and in keeping with the learning of an above-the-line response, let's change some of the words in our thought for the day. Let's change these words to make it more personal to you. And now I'd love you to read that message to yourself out loud again. My business is there to serve me, not the other way around. Now, just that subtle changing of words increases the feeling of ownership and responsibility. It's my business, not yours. Just remember that when we're talking with team and we're talking about accepting responsibility and ownership of issues. So that's our thought for the day. Tim, I'll hand back to you just to see what sort of response we've been having and to just go over the agenda for us, please.
Yeah, sure. So we've had some actually great responses over the last 6 weeks, and I actually want to make a couple of special shout outs to Nicole, Shiva, Anthony, Cora, Vanessa, and Steve, who pretty much every single week have provided us with some form of level of response to what's to their takings from the sessions. But also appreciate the feedback from everyone. And I just want to today start it off. Some of the thoughts that have come back to us, some of the decisions, the actions, and the accountabilities that we've seen come through, just a few top liners that come a few times. Setting up a new business 10 hats model has come through quite a few times. So obviously that session really landed. Had a couple of told us they're going to enroll in online training programs. Mostly seems to be Zero, about wearing the finance hat and better understanding their numbers. There was actually one that came through which really took my fancy, which was developing an asset purchasing budget. So that goes right back to that 2-minute MBA and getting the greatest return on investment from assets. Some mentions of calculating key ratios, on which we touched on in Know Your Numbers, around debtors, creditors, and stock. And one that probably really took my fancy was someone said they're going to set up a new engagement with their accountant to better understand the numbers and keep on track, which obviously is close to our hearts. So there's been many, many others, but thank you so much to everyone who's provided us feedback and has really taken on board many of the thoughts we've presented throughout this last 5 weeks to date, and obviously today. Today, what we're going to touch on, again, we'll recap familiar principles, which we do each week. Well, then we're going to talk about 4 different elements. We're going to talk about systems, accountability, business structures, and asset protection. And they're all key pillars of the strong business model. So Michael will lead the bulk of that section today. I'll hop in for a couple of times and away we go. So Michael, maybe you want to take us through the strong business model.
Sure. Thanks, Tim. Look, we've constantly referred to this strong business model throughout the series, and we'll continue with this theme as we recap some of the past sessions very quickly. Now, over the past 5 weeks, we've covered the following. In session 1, we looked at the need for and the components of this strong business model. But we also learned about the law of results and the 2-minute MBA. Hopefully these things will just rejig some thoughts and some memories of what we covered. Now, in session 2, we looked at 2 of the foundations of a strong business model. That is the clarity plan and the strategic business plan for your business. But we also looked at the leadership mindsets of above the line, below the line. We looked at be, do, have principle. We looked at Richard Branson's team first model, and then we finished off with the 4 stages of learning, which is critical for when we're teaching our team. Session 3, we spent a fair bit of time on the need for cash flow forecasts on a more regular basis. Even Tim showed us perhaps weekly is the way to go with that. And we also looked at some ways to better manage or reallocate your time. We've all got 24 hours a day. Maybe it's just different ways to reallocate. And of course, that was the time target and the 4 Ds. Session 4, we went on a deep dive into the components and the functions of the 10 hats of your business. And this included the need to document the roles and responsibilities of everyone on your team, both internal and external. And we also looked at, in that session, the 5 A's to enable change within your business. Session 5, we looked at what we really need to know in relation to your numbers, not just the standard numbers from the profit and loss and their KPIs, key performance indicators, but also the critical drivers of your business. And we looked at a live example of when you know which levers and dials to tweak in your business model. We learned how minor changes can have a compounding impact on the profitability and the value of your business. And today, well, we're going to complete the other 2 pillars that enable growth in your business, which is systems and accountability. And we'll also briefly look at the components of the roof of a strong business model, the business structure and the asset protection. And once we get through all that, we'll wrap up the series. So let's get straight into it because we've got a lot to cover today. But first, system. What is a system? Look, there's a lot of definitions, but one of the most common one is a system is a set of detailed methods or procedures and routines created to carry out a specific activity, perform a duty, or solve a problem. Now, we'll break that definition down as we go through this session, but and at the conclusion of all this, it's going to be a very quick introduction to systems because it's a big topic. I'd like to think that you will have a much better understanding of how to go about systemizing your business and how it links in with the other components of a strong business model. In order to achieve that, we're going to aim to give you some more knowledge and an understanding around the 4 components of a system and how to go about creating those. So, why are systems in any business such a great idea? The number 1 reason of having systems is leverage. Now, what's leverage? Look, essentially, leverage is doing more with less. And it's important to note there are really only 3 main forms of leverage that we can have in our businesses. They are people. That's the people we hire to do the work for us so that we don't have to. We hire them to bring innovations and improvements that we may not think of or we may not create because we can be working in our business too much sometimes. And because we're doing that, maybe we don't recognize some opportunities for improvement along the way. And that's what we have people around us to do. So leveraging people, leveraging technology. Now, it doesn't matter whether it's a server or an app that enables team members to access a common system at any time, anywhere in the world, or it's a phone or a Skype or a webinar type system that they don't have to physically visit people to communicate. Or even just the advent of smartphones and payment apps. So you can take out these apps and technology on site and get paid straight away, improves your debtor's cash flow. We all know that the amount of technology available at our fingertips has absolutely exploded. In fact, sometimes it's quite confusing as to which app or software to pick. Actually, while I'm on this, a small tip. A lot of people look to technology as the savior, the holy grail, but actually experience has shown us that if your manual systems are a bit of a mess or severely lacking, then no amount of technology will fix that, as a general rule. And the third form of leverage that we can get is through systems. That's where we get our people and our technology doing what we need them to do the right way. And it's really important to get the right mix of people and technology, and ultimately systems in our businesses should facilitate our team to either do what we want, when we want it done, at a great standard, consistently. That's the overall aim of implementing systems. Just quickly following on from what I said about apps or technology not being able to fix everything, an important note here to remember that just about everyone in business is in the business of relationships. In my opinion, computers and technology aren't that great at creating relationships. To me, people do that. Technology can aid and nurture the relationship to some degree, but again, in my opinion, there still has to be a heavy involvement from the people within your business in relation to nurturing relationships. So either way you look at it, if you want your business to grow, then you're going to need to learn how to leverage in some shape or form. I spent a bit of time on that because it's really important. That's the number one reason to have systems. Very quickly, the second reason, client expectations. Using a systematic approach allows us to meet and hopefully exceed the expectations of our clients. Now, also in doing that, it shines a light on the strengths and weaknesses of our business, which ultimately gives you, the business owner, a better awareness of what needs to improve and possibly a better understanding of any customer needs that aren't being met. The third benefit is that it provides consistency of results. To ensure efficiency and consistency of results, systems and processes are essential. Systems actually can also improve employee performance and creativity. It just opens up a new avenue of personal engagement between the employer and their team, as well as with the clients. And systems create the opportunities to improve communication. The fourth benefit of systems is that it creates efficiencies, because business systems have the capacity to reduce costs and boost revenues by producing consistent, high quality work. And importantly, very importantly, systems will extract the IP out of the heads of the owners and the team into a system which will significantly lift the performance and the standards of that business. Systems will also highlight, of course, maybe there's opportunities to further automate or to further leverage technology, or probably maybe where personal interaction may be more appropriate than an app. Who knows? And finally, the fifth benefit that we see of systems is that it can increase business value. Now, look, there's readily available data that says a fully automated and systemized business can be worth around up to 6 times more than a business that's not. Now, whether you believe it's 6 times or 2 or 3, or it doesn't really matter. It's whatever you're comfortable with, and it does depend on your industry. But to illustrate this point, who has the best systemized company in the world? Don't think it's going to take you long to realize that McDonald's have the best systemized company in the world. But who thinks they've got the best burgers or the best food? Probably not. So if they've got an ordinary product or an average product, how can they be the best business in the world? Pretty simple, really, because they can just replicate their products, their services all over our town, our state, country, the world, and the customers have a pretty consistent experience, no matter where they are, relatively speaking. But for that to happen, McDonald's need to have 2 critical things. And these things, it's essential in their business. They need to have a strong business model, and they have to have amazing systems. So from this, you can maybe draw the conclusion that you may have a questionable product, but if you have an awesome business model and fantastic systems, you can still be successful in this business world. However, of course, the reverse is true. You might have the best product or service out there, but if you've got a poor business model and being able to get it to the customers, or poor systems, then you can struggle to achieve your goals without a doubt. But if you've got no systems or poor systems, or your systems aren't understood by your team, it's always going to lead to inconsistent results. As a business owner, we'll end up probably doing heaps more hours than we should. Team will get frustrated. There'll be inefficiency. We'll redo work. The business may grow, then contract, and then grow and contract and grow, and you get my drift. You know where I'm going with that. But a solid, systemized business can mean, obviously, much happier owners because there's stronger cash flow. Clients will enjoy, and customers, a similar experience, and importantly, the team will feel empowered to run the business independently, as these systems give them a sense that they're supported, and their decisions can be made in alignment with their roles and responsibilities. Now, we all know that Macca's and the business itself are much, much more than the hamburger shop on the corner, the unsystemized business, but not once is that because McDonald's have a better product than the corner store. How much do McDonald's believe in systems? They've invested in the biggest way, and that you're probably already aware that they have universities. McDonald's universities teach the McDonald's way. I think they're called hamburger universities. But whatever you think of the quality of the food, just take the principle here of the systems and apply it to your business. Now, I've said earlier that the aim of using a system or creating a system is to get your team or those around you doing what you want, when you want it, at a high standard every time. So with that in mind, what are some of the key words or attributes or terminology that we need to remember when we're designing the systems for our businesses? First one is replicated. This process needs to be done without the owner having to think about it. It's imperative that the process be able to be replicated under pressure. Standards, because whether the owner is there or not, things need to be done in a certain way, because that reflects the reputation and the brand of your business, to your existing clients, but also potential new prospects. Anyone. The process has to be able to be replicated by anyone. So therefore, the need for specialized skills is less, which means you have contingencies and choices as a business owner if something or someone is missing for a while. Easiest. If it's not easy to follow, people will take shortcuts, especially in business where time is of the essence. And finally, consistently. When a process is consistently replicated, it produces great habits. And the team then get this feeling of trust, but also your reputation with your clients is enhanced too, because they can trust what they're going to get from you. Excuse me. So they're the 5 key words. Now, when you're developing the systems in your business, please, there are 2 golden principles we want you to keep in mind when you're doing that. The first golden principle is systems run a business and people run the systems. Think about that. Systems run the business and people run the systems. So when you're having any challenge in your business, please just ask yourself one of these 3 questions. What system is breaking down here? Or what system is not being used here? Or what is the system that I don't have? What system needs to be implemented? Please just don't automatically assume that a person is at fault, because systems run a business. People just run the systems. The second golden principle is that we want to systemize the routine so that you can humanize the exception. So when challenges do happen, You know, you need to have the time and resources to deal with them. You know, better still, having your team have the resources, the authority, and the systems to support them so that you can humanize the exceptions is amazing. That's what you need to get to. Just a critical thing here, and I won't go into it too long, but if someone on your team humanizes the exception, please just get them to communicate that decision to everyone else who's impacted by that decision, because if there's no communication, it will maybe just show up as, look, that looks just like another system that's not being followed. Really important to remember that bit. So back to this golden principle rule of the systems, we humanize the exceptions and we systemize the routine. It sort of follows a principle called the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule. You've probably heard of it, where, for example, 20% of our clothes will get worn 80% of the time. I actually looked at that and thought maybe in COVID lockdown, that's 20% is a lot less, but anyway. But you know what I mean there. 20% of your efforts will generate 80% of the results. So sometimes getting that final 20%, the cream, the profits, the cash, the bonus, that may take up to another 80% of your time. And that principle highlights that we may not be able to systemize more than 80% of our business. Maybe that last 20 is a human element, the situations that are out of the ordinary or exceptional circumstances. And maybe we shouldn't waste time on trying to systemize that 20%. We could devote more time to the other areas of working on your business. Actually, there's a book written by Dr. Paddy Lund, I just remember before, Brisbane-based dentist, talks about the amazing systems that he put in place. That reminds me again that our coach has always said to us that in business, that we will be defined in business by the people we associate with and the books we read or listen to in these days. So please, that book by Dr. Paddy Lund, I'll get Linda to get the exact name and post it up later. So now we've seen a lot of systems implemented in other businesses, and we've implemented a lot here. And so I want to quickly touch on why we think that sometimes systems don't work in a business. And essentially, if people don't know what the systems are or where to access those systems, then there's going to be job reworks and repeats and confusions and muck-ups. And people will just go back to doing what they normally do, things their own way. And that'll have an impact on others being able to achieve their or perform their functions or roles. Secondly, systems need to be created and worked in alignment with your 10-hat structure. Why is that? Well, as we said, the aim of systems is to get your team or your contractors doing what you want, when you want, at an exceptional standard every time. This 10-hat structure sets out the roles and responsibilities, so it has to talk to each other. And finally, systems need to be updated, because if they're not, people get frustrated. So many other key components of the strong business model, they need to be reviewed and tweaked on a constant basis. And we've said it several times over in the past 6 weeks, that we as small business owners are in a constant flux of change at the moment. So why would we think our systems or our plans or our strategies would be any different to that? They need to be tweaked and honed. So maybe rather than asking a question around why our systems or certain systems don't work, maybe a better question is, so what can we do to make the systems more relevant, more accessible, more user-friendly? Oh, and also, please make sure that your team or anyone who has to use the system is involved in developing that system. So there's maximum engagement from everyone, and ownership, really important. Excuse me. So let's go on to now the type of formats that we can use and that we can produce systems in. And if we agree that businesses and systems can have an enormous impact and can greatly benefit our business, that impact will be the most or the biggest if everyone is engaged and follows the system. So it follows that could be a problem, because we all learn at different paces. We respond better to different forms of learning. And as you can see on the screen there, some of us respond better to visual images. We may prefer to see what is expected of us. We may respond better to diagrams or illustrations. Some of us may prefer to listen to someone teaching us a system or process. We're more responsive to auditory learning. So podcasts or lectures may be a more appropriate form of learning. And kinesthetic, we may prefer to learn by doing rather than watching or listening. So we could use projects or experiments or trial and error. That may be a benefit for the kinesthetic people amongst us. Now, if we combine those forms of learning with a personality type, such as, people can be task orientated or people orientated. And you may have done or heard of the disc profiling exercise. Well, you throw that in the mix, it just becomes very apparent that any type of system we have has to appeal to a wide range of people. We want everyone to follow the system. We need to get better traction with our systems. We need to take that into account. So, what are the 4 different ways that we can present our systems? The first one is we can use a script. And a script is a guide of what to say, when to say it, so that people feel comfortable with the structure of how to generate an end result, via a verbal communication. For example, a sales call that requires converting a qualified lead to a sale. That's the function of sales hat. Or a finance department using a script to call a debtor with an overdue account. Scripts would be really useful in that situation. Templates. A template structure it ensures that all the information that is collated or is needed to be sent to someone is in a simple yet effective format, and it gives us further steps and actions. It's more fail-proof. It could be, for example, a templated proposal to a prospective client. You've got your marketing hat on, and you want to make sure that you cover off all the aspects of your service. So you have a template to do that. A standard template could be used with a finance hat on, where a debtor is outside our trading terms. So there's a templated email ready to be used by anyone. A how-to. A how-to is a step-by-step breakdown of what to do in which order to achieve the important things you need to do in your business. So again, as an example, you've got your finance hat on your head, and you might go, okay, I need a step-by-step guide to how to raise an invoice, how to send it to the client, how to file it, subsequent follow-up calls, right up until it's paid, step by step. Now, a tip here is not just to use words. There's a lot of programs out there like Camtasia or Loom, where you can record yourself doing a task and use that. It has a much more powerful impact on sometimes in words. Remember our 3 modes of learning. With us, for example, there's a lot of talking in this webinar. So that means there's a lot of listening, but we try to break that up with scripts. We try to break that up with our slides, and we'll break away and do the spreadsheets, the live examples just for the kinesthetic people. That's an example of using those 3 forms of learning. Finally, I believe this is one of the most important aspects, is the flow chart. It's the high level step-by-step diagram that shows you how and when things happen in the business. And they highlight all the little steps along the way, and they include how-tos and scripts and templates, or a combination of that. You can see on the screen that each box, you might see a T or an S or a H. That's, if you get really cute, you can hyperlink that to your script or your template or your how-to. To me, a flow chart is this helicopter view of your systems and processes. And from there, you delve deeper into the scripts, temps, and how-tos. So there's a fair bit in systems, and then we did that because we really believe in it's a key component, a key pillar of the strong business model. Let's just jump into now quickly the final pillar of our strong business model, which is accountability. And accountability, this is essential for business success. The ongoing reporting and accountability that's implemented. Now, you need to constantly monitor your results, and that shows you if you're on track to achieve goals. Now, we covered a lot of all that in the Know Your Numbers session about reporting. So we mentioned there that technology provides you with real-time data which you can compare, and that helps you track your progress. We're not going to spend too long on accountability, because if you look at this slide here, we've constantly referred to the benefits of having some accountability throughout this 6-week session. Once again, you can see it there, law of results. Decisions multiplied by actions, multiplied by some form of accountability will give you results. Now, you're going to have to make some changes if you want to achieve better results. You've probably documented these, hopefully, in your business plan, but the risk is that life is busy and you just don't get around to implementing some of these changes. So accountability helps you set aside time to work on your business and complete the actions you've got in your business plan. So who will hold you accountable? Now, essentially, this person must be someone independent, and they must have the backbone to give you some consequences if you fail. They can't be afraid to act or for fear of upsetting you when you do need a good dose of accountability. They need to care about achieving goals as well. So we call this, having a coach or a mentor with backbone and heart. And that person should also ensure that you're dedicating time to look at your numbers as well as the actions. If you think about it, just quickly, and New Year's resolutions, apparently around 99% of people approach their New Year's resolutions each year by starting with the ones they didn't do last year. Probably says a lot there. And the same applies in business. So that is the last of the pillars. I'm going to hand over to Tim now to touch on business structure and asset protection before we get into the wind up. Tim, over to you.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks again for all the work on those pillars and those foundations there. It really is critical now that once we have those pillars in place and those foundations set up, that the final piece of the puzzle is this roof. And the roof, in our analogy, is all about protection. The same as your house. You can have the greatest house in the world, but if the roof is no good and water gets in, it can actually wreck what you've created underneath. So business structures and asset protection, they're not exciting topics. They're not the sort of thing that you want to shout from the rooftops, pardon the pun. But the reality is that they are critical to protecting you and really your family moving forward. So what we're going to run through here, and I'll probably touch on this a few times in the next few minutes, we'll talk about this topic, is that this is a very bespoke topic and very technical, so specific to each person. So today's stuff, whilst we said right at the start, there's no disclaimer to all these sessions and we're proud of everything we do, I'll be honest, there's a slight disclaimer here. It's a little bit generic because it has to be, because you need to get advice specific for your situation. But let's walk it through what's really important, and let's take a bit of a deeper dive into different types of structures that you might want to discuss with accountants, solicitors, other advisors around what works best for you. Because the key areas we're looking to protect are asset protection, tax efficiency, succession opportunities, which is really something a lot of people will miss. So succession is a next generation type of thought, or are you planning to sell your business? And then value for money. Let's face facts. We can have the greatest structure in the world, but if it's not providing us the benefits, well then what's the value for money? It's also important to realize, I guess, that one structure doesn't last forever, and it's an evolving topic. I'll chat about that more a little bit in a moment, but just remember that point is that structures and asset protection are not set and forget topics. What might be right for today may in fact be ineffective or even detrimental in the future years. So let's look at a few of the structures that you can have. And the sole trader, probably the one that most people start at. We've all heard of the sole trader, and for many people, entrepreneurs, this is the entry point. Low on cost, low frills, but can get something started for those who want to dip their toe in the water without a full committing to the actual business itself. So the classic example of this is someone who works not Monday to Friday in a job, perhaps as a tradie, for example, and they decide that they want to do a bit of extra work on the side, or they may be working in an office and decide, hey, I want to start a little business to get things started, a little bit of extra income, evenings, weekends, to supplement their income and perhaps test the market, or maybe just find out if they want to be their own boss. So that sole trader model is really handy as this type of entry point, but it's easy to start and easy to stop. That's a great thing. But that said, let's be frank about it. When you choose your structures, you do get what you pay for, and talk about value for money. So the sole trader model doesn't provide anywhere near the tax planning or asset protection the companies in trust we'll touch shortly on do. So it's important to understand that what you see with sole trader is what you get. Great entry point, great starting point. And again, this is part of the reason why evolution of business structures is critical and reviews. The next one many would have heard of, and similar to a sole trader in many respects, is the partnership. Often the situation, same as a sole trader, but the difference is a couple of people, two generally speaking, maybe a few more, decide to have a go at business together. A couple of reasons. Potentially they've got the same skill set. So a couple of young carpenters decide they want to take on bigger jobs, makes more sense to do it together rather than do it individually. Or potentially where there's two different skill sets coming together, so you can create synergy where some of the parts exceed the two individuals by themselves. So let's say, recently an events manager joined forces with the chef, and they created like a fully integrated experience. So the features of the partnership are really similar to that of the sole trader in terms of asset protection, tax flexibility, but it just works slightly differently to bring two parties together in a more formal type of manner. And again, compared to the other options, the partnership model is quite inexpensive, generally relatively easy to establish, and as a rule, slightly easier to unwind than, let's say, a company or a trust. But again, let's face facts, it has limitations in terms of optimizing its usefulness for a growing business. And when it comes to succession planning or estate planning, can sometimes actually cause more problems and unexpected problems than anticipated. So again, lower costs, but lower benefits that comes with that side of things. Often then we move to the more sophisticated or developed stage where risk aversion or tax flexibility are really important considerations, and move to more sophisticated business structures. The first one we'll just highlight here is the company. And most of us will have heard of companies. Most of us deal with companies. This is structure. It's actually quite often a misunderstood structure, because the critical starting point that I always think we need to think about with a company is to know that it's actually a separate legal entity. And in many respects, owners need to view it as just that, as being the company's here. So it's like having an extra person in the room. So for Michael and myself, it's Michael, myself, and Sage Business Group sitting in the same room together, because the company is a separate legal entity. Now, that brings with it higher complexity and obligations, and they're administered by the Australian Securities and Investments Commission. So ASIC is a common reference there. So they have to have their own sets of financials. That's the challenges that are faced by having a company. But then there's, of course, the gains, and the reason to have it is that if you're looking for asset protection, an extra layer, if you're looking for more options around tax planning, companies can provide that. This is where this separate legal entity model and those extra reporting obligations actually provides the benefit of having protection for shareholders and for directors. And let's face facts, in business and in life, things do go wrong, and a company can provide some of those benefits of increased tax flexibility and asset protection. One of the big things too around a company is there is clear ownership structure. Because it's administered by ASIC, there is clear ownership of who owns each portion of the company, which allows for people to own different portions. You might have a business a company where there's 4 owners, but no one says it has to be 25% each. It could be 40, 40, 10, 10, whichever way you want to go. So it has a lot of flexibility around that. And then similarly to trust, with a bit of a twist. So trusts often will have a corporate trustee that still provides that same level of asset protection. And there's some enhancements there also. And the enhancements, generally speaking, are around capital gains tax. So if you're looking to buy an asset that has a long-term growth value, often trusts can have a really big play here, particularly when we're talking about land assets or property. Sometimes they're businesses also. But one of the critical things I want to highlight here is, as I said, mentioned earlier, it's bespoke. Not one size can fit all. And quite often, what we'll find is there a combination of structures that can work together to give the best outcome for circumstances. So it's not uncommon for, say, a company to be owned by a family trust, or for a family trust to hold assets and lease them to a company. It's also common for the structures to change and evolve, that I touched on. Small business owner may take on a new partner, invest in a new product, be growing at rapid rates. So each of these times it's important to and appropriate to update the structure and just review it and see, is it still appropriate? And I use the analogy a little bit that if we think of our business structure like one of our children, then let's draw a line between a baby will have different needs to the preteen, who have different needs again to the teenager, different needs to the young adult, and so on and so forth. So whilst we don't want to be changing our structures all the time, and that's not an effective approach, it's crucial to keep reviewing them as we put years and years in place of actually keeping an eye on the real objective, which is to provide the best outcome for the business owner and the business owner's family. And then we're doing so much work and taking us as business owners and taking on risk as business owners that we need to use these structures to create a brick wall between our risks and what's really important and what we want to protect. So what's best practice with asset protection? Because there is no right and there is no wrong. There can only be best practice. And so we believe annual review process. And personally, here's an idea that I've used in the past, but I suggest that to many clients is just take 1 day of annual leave per year. So actually dedicate a day of annual leave per year if you're employed, or if you're in business, just allocate the start of the year, 1 day, you're committed to be the asset protection day. Because you can't imagine not insuring your house or your car, which is one form of asset protection, but why would you then not place importance on protecting yourself, your family, your legacy, succession? And you'll actually work your way through here. You'll see our annual review process is really quite simple. We won't spend a lot of time in the area, but let's look at applying a checklist annually. Protect the business assets, protect the personal assets, protect the key people, really critical, and succession planning. And take that through. What does it look like? A checklist: business assets, personal assets, superannuation, and retirement assets. So as we roll through each of those, we can build and develop a specific set of needs for each person, because not everyone will have buy-sell arrangements. Not everyone will have PPSR. Not everyone will have powers of attorney. But maybe we should look at, are they relevant for you? So it's a really interesting topic, and it's the roof. It's the protection. The roof gets no glory. When people look at your house, they never say, what a marvelous roof. But it's the roof that's protecting your house quite often for the beautiful structure in there. And that's why that's so critical to our foundations. So with that in mind, Michael, why don't you take this baby home?
Okay, thanks, Tim. Really important information there. So this slide, I think we used up front. The very first session we said we're in the respond phase that we were this pandemic, and coming from a place of reacting and reacting to what's being thrown at us by the pandemic, and as I said, to us by all the government assistance that's being thrown around. And he said then that we're entering the recovery phase, and we need to approach this with a different mindset. Be proactive and apply learnings from this unfortunate event. Now, unfortunately for some of us, we didn't last long in the recovery stage. With lockdowns being reintroduced, we're back into hibernation and doing things just to survive. But I want to ask a question. Did you as a business leader ensure that you didn't revert to the old ways of doing things? Did you see a need to change? Did you learn from the first time we got locked down? Hopefully you did, because our observations, and again, I'll reinforce them to say that the people and the businesses that were able to adapt and change to these conditions were the ones with the strong business foundations. Their core values remain the same. They had plans, as Tim just said, their plans, but not only just to protect, but plans in relation to your business, your financial plan, personally, and then your own affairs, a life plan, looking after your assets. They're continually and consistently working on their business. They're the ones that we've seen who are getting through this storm. They also understand the value of consistent implementation. And we've said it before, you've just got to keep doing things over and over again, get a system so that better habits are created. So, working on your business, not in it. What does it mean for you now? For those of you who've been with on this journey for 6 weeks, have your views changed or have they just been added to? Yeah, I remember one of the first responses we got was that working on the business for someone was to do marketing. So that's fantastic. But I'm hoping now you can see that doing more marketing may mean, looking at my numbers more, specifically around the growth equation and how small changes to a couple of critical drivers can have a significant impact on my bottom line and profit, which of course we know now is not the same as cash. So marketing, does it now mean putting on that purple marketing hat and looking at strategies to improve the critical drivers of the new leads generated? Does it mean putting on the red sales hat to ensure that we convert those leads into sales and increase the average dollar sale each time that someone buys from us, and to increase the number of times they buy from us? Does marketing now mean looking at the test and measure results of the marketing strategies we're putting into place? And because we know now, we've gone through it, what we can measure, we can manage. Does it mean marketing mean that we look at the numbers and see if they're actually going to assist you, business owner, in achieving your clarity plan? Are they in alignment with your strategic business plan? It could also mean that marketing now means that when you've determined some strategies that do work for you, that you create systems, including templates and flowcharts, to ensure that it's not always you that has to do the marketing. And maybe it means putting some accountability around those actions to make sure you get a better or a greater return on your invested time. You get my drift. I could go on, but with all these new actions and newfound knowledge, I hope that you could recognize that they should all be heading in the same direction, and that is to create a business that has very strong foundations upon which to grow, very strong pillars to enable that growth, and as Tim just covered then, a very strong roof to protect those assets. But whatever it is for you in achieving the goals you want. So as we do each week, please respond to our landing page there. Yep. When are you going to get your clarity plan completed? Please let us know when you're going to prepare and complete and implement a strategic business plan. Put a date on it. If you want to just use us and give us a date, that's a little bit of accountability you need. Fantastic, do that. We can do that, but who else are you going to appoint to hold you to account for your actions? So, and also, please use that form. As I said, our gift to you, if you are having issues with anything in your business and you're not quite sure how to tackle it, please let us know. We will respond and we'll do our best to show you how we would tackle it. Okay, so in signing off, look, we've really enjoyed presenting these sessions, and I've no doubt we're going to be back. Maybe a similar format, but who knows? Maybe we'll adapt and we'll take what we've presented here and come back in different formats. And I know Linda's already working on that. So a big thank you to the Hume Council for showing initiative, to commission this series and for being so supportive of small business in Hume in general. A big thanks to the team here, not just Tim and Linda for helping with their sessions. Their input's been amazing, but also the rest of the team at Sage, because they've had to cover for us while we've created the content and delivered it. So thank you to them. And finally, thank you to you, the business owners who took the time out of your day to either listen and with us live and provide some feedback and some chat time, or who listen later on, on YouTube. Hearing about your progression and learnings make it all worthwhile. So thanks again, and please feel free to contact us and let us know how your business journey is going.
Thanks, Mike. Can I butt in? If I could just butt in. It's Zena here from Hume City Council, everybody. Just before they do sign off, I on behalf of Council, thank you for the kind words, Michael, and just thank you, Michael, Tim, Linda, for putting this on for the past 6 weeks, and also for the rest of the Sage team for helping you guys out. But more importantly, to all of you guys as businesses who have tuned in for the 6 weeks. I hope it's been valuable information. I know it has for me, and I don't even run a business, and it's just made me think about a lot of ways about the way that we conduct business within council. So look, if you've really had some value from this and appreciate it, let us know at business@hume.vic.gov.au. I'd love to hear back your feedback, and please follow up with Michael and Tim on anything that they've said, because I know that they will get back to you if that's what you'd like them to do. So on behalf of Council, Michael, Tim, thank you so much. It has been more than valuable. I've loved all your sayings every week. So secretly, Ros and I have been sort of recording them and taking them down. So you might see them appear in some book in the future. Who knows?
Love it.
Dedicated to you guys. So thank you so much. And I can see all the thanks coming through the chat. So I kind of wanted to keep it going, hoping that the thank yous would come through. So sincerely, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And this is not the end, as Michael said. They will be back. So if you want them back and want them to do more, let us know, because we'll be more than happy to continue running these sessions. So look after yourselves, everybody. Take care, stay safe, and thanks again.
Thank you, Zena. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, guys.